So as we get started tonight, this is the second in our series of digital assessment and feedback. And just like last time, I want to go through a few housekeeping rules just because we've got some new people on tonight. But we ask that you keep your mic muted. That way, if you have background noise, it doesn't interfere with what our speaker, whoever's presenting, is saying. And then if you want to chat your questions in the chat box, do that. We'll take care of those in real time as much as possible. And then if not, we'll address those at the end during Q&A. And then we also have the slide deck here in the agenda, and we will put that in just a moment. Lauren or Rosalind will put the slide deck link in the chat. We like to wait until everybody's in so that nobody misses that link. And you're welcome to follow along with us as we go. Just like last time, we are recording, and we will make the recording available to everybody in attendance tonight later on, so you can go back and re-listen if you need to, just so you have that available to you. And then I also want to point out the Google Meet expectations guide. Just like we're creating the expectations for this meeting, this is just a guide that you might choose to use and adapt and change for your students. This is one that Lauren put together. It has her Bitmoji on it, and you can take it, make a copy, and then change out those Bitmojis. And if you have different points that you want to emphasize for those expectations, you can do that. So if you're not aware, I'm Angie White, the Director of Instructional Technology here in Oldham County. Tonight we have Rosalind Manning, one of our digital learning coaches, will be sharing with you, and Lauren Rata, another one of our learning coaches here in Oldham County. And as always, we try to attach our professional learning to our standards. And with online learning, we look at iNicole, and iNicole has 11 online learning or blended learning environment standards. And so we're going to be touching on 3 of these specifically tonight. If we're not going to spend a lot of time on these, but if you are interested, you can go to the link at the top, and that will take you to those standards and give you a little more information about our standards for online learning. Last time we went into some a little more depth on the difference between formative and summative assessment, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on that tonight, but just basically think of formative assessment as those assessments during a learning cycle that you use and that students use to adjust learning so that they can achieve those learning goals and targets. Summative assessment, on the other hand, is at the end of that learning cycle and is comparing it against some kind of standard or benchmark at the end. So there is no adjustment at that point. And I liked this quote from Paul Black. It says, "When the cook tastes the soup, that's formative assessment. When the customer tastes the soup, that's summative assessment." And I thought that summed it up really well. And tonight we'll be looking at both formative and summative assessment tools and how to use several of those in feedback as well with your students. So I'm going to turn it over to Rosalind and Lauren now and let them have at it. Let me get back so I can quit sharing my screen. And ladies, go for it.
All right, I'm going to take over now. Hello, everybody. I'm Lauren Rata. I'm going to present my screen now. And continue. All right. Can everybody see me? All right, I'm going to take over here. And so now we're going to dig into our digital assessment and feedback tools. Just to kind of give you some background knowledge of how this is organized. I see some people have joined us for our second session tonight, and some of you, it's your first time. And so I kind of wanted to explain kind of the outline so that you know how tonight will look, as well as if you go back to this slide deck, you kind of have a feel for how it's organized. And so in our session tonight, first, we're going to dig into what we're calling that deeper tool and spend about 20 minutes on it to really get to know it for both assessment and feedback. And then we're going to have kind of 2 quick tools that are 10 minutes each. And then one that we're calling that digital dessert that you'll, if we have time, I'll get into it a little bit, but if not, that'll be something you kind of take with you. So think about that. If you're at a restaurant and you get that dessert to go to be able to enjoy later at home. So that's kind of the intended use of it. Also, to kind of look at those formats of each tool, as you can see here, first we'll always have a slide as an overview, and it's kind of color coded in blue. And that slide will always tell you kind of a brief overview of, well, what is this tool? How can we use it in the classroom? As well as how to get started, because we are going to spend the bulk of our time going over specifically the tools that can be used to assess your students and to give them feedback. This isn't the tool training on, well, how do I get started using these tools? So if you do need that information, there are always links here of how to get started from the very beginning. The next, if that tool lends itself to assessment, you'll notice a green color-coded slide showing assessment. And if it has the purple one after it, that means also that tool lends itself to giving that student feedback. And then they all end with this kind of salmon colored slide with examples and resources for later. So kind of going deeper on those tools, as well as sometimes even some examples of how it's been used within Oldham County for both primary or as well as secondary as well. So kind of just a brief overview of how that's going to look tonight, as well as when you go back to them. So what we're calling our going or digging deep tool tonight is going to be an application called ClassKick. And so if you are kind of unfamiliar with ClassKick, it is that digital platform where teachers can create content for students to interact. What I really like about ClassKick is there are so many options for students and for teachers to, whether it's assessment or feedback. You can use text, you can use audio, there are manipulatives, and many other additional tools that we'll dig into here in just a moment. Teachers, like I said, can use it to assess students, but as well as you can give students that feedback, and that feedback can be immediate that I'll show here in a minute, as well as it can be feedback that can be given at a little bit later time. You can create these from the app, so like getting started from scratch, all within ClassKick as a teacher, or you can upload something you already have created, whether that's something from your drive or a PDF that they can also interact with and annotate on top of. Also, this can be used right now, whether you're a teacher and you are in person, or as well as if you're that VLA teacher. It can be synchronous or asynchronous instruction. So just many implications for ClassKick. I also want to throw out there, a lot of people see ClassKick and they immediately their brains go to elementary, but this is not a tool that it can be used only at that elementary level. You'll see this evening how it can also be used in that secondary classroom as well. So the next slide. Here I do have my green color coding because it can be used for assessment. And that's the first way I want to showcase ClassKick. I do want to take a second and let you look at this screen because I want you to join me, if possible, within what we're going to call an assignment. I'm going to show you in real time here in just a minute by going to my ClassKick account how you could use this to assess your students. But I also wanted to let you have that opportunity to feel what it looks like as a student view as well. So if you are on a tablet or smart device, if you want to pull up your phone or a tablet to the side, you do have to have the ClassKick app, but it's free and it's very easy to download. Or if you're in a new tab, if you're on a laptop, desktop, Chromebook, if you go to app.classkick.com, you can also join me here with this code. So I'm going to give you, if you want that opportunity, maybe a quick little 30 seconds or take a little picture of my screen if it might take you a little bit longer so you still have this code. And as well as I'm sure Rosalind or Dr. White would also be happy to put this code into the chat so you can find it as well. I'll give you a few seconds and then I will go to my actual dashboard. And also to mention, as you're working on that, if you're wanting to join, you can see here all of these different tools I'm going to showcase in real time, but these are also hyperlinks. So if later you want to come back and just remember, oh, how can I use the pen to draw, or how can my kids use it? You can come here, and these are all clickable videos of these, just very short clips. All right, I'm going to go ahead and escape from this and pull up my ClassKick account. Okay, so here is, I'm going to go back to the home. So here is my teacher ClassKick account. When I log in, as you can see, I'm basic. I am the free version. The free version, in my opinion, does pretty much everything I want it to do. As you can see, I do want to let you know, you do have 20 assignments. And so how it works is right now I have 17, and this is, from multiple years working with teachers. When I don't want one anymore, or I want to make a new one, you can delete these and it will come back. And so you can do it that way. As well as another feature that has been missing for me is the grade importing. So if that's something you're interested in for the pro version, as well as importing students from your Google Classroom. They will just log in and have to sign in with Google and their Oldham County email to get within your class. So just 3 features to kind of note that aren't available in the free version, but I think that pretty much everything you need to do is all within that basic. So here is my dashboard as a teacher, and my assignments come up first. That's what they're called here. And it doesn't have to, an assignment can be an assessment. It could just be an activity to help students get to know something or exploring. It doesn't have to be that you're always assessing within ClassKick, but that's just how I'm going to showcase it right now. I did go ahead and I made an assessment and feedback practice assignment, which is what you may be in with me right now. So let me click on that and show you. As you can see what that looks like. I went ahead and in every single slide, I did make sure that I used every single tool for you to be able to see what that looks like in the student view. But I'm going to go to a new blank slide right now so that I can show you how you as a teacher, though, could assess students. And so here is your basic toolbar up here at the top. Now, what I also like about ClassKick is every option that's available for me to create a slide is also available for students too. So we both have those options. Up here in the toolbar, you have your basic zoom in and out. That selector tool allows you to move things around. After that, we have the pin mode. And so the pin mode would be great for you to use for students to be able to share their thinking for assessment. So how it works is they just select the pin. And then over here, it gives you color options as well, kind of some basic colors, as well as the thickness of your pin. And students can use this to explain their thinking. They can, use it for letters. They could use it for shapes. The possibilities are endless. So any way to demonstrate their understanding. The next is that highlighter tool. So you'll notice the second slide, if you're kind of playing around and participating right now, the highlighter allows you to highlight, or you could put a passage in and determine importance. You could have younger students butter their popcorn words. You can use that highlighter in many different ways to assess student understanding. They can choose, same thing, a different color if they want, as well as the thickness of their highlighter to highlight. So I'm sure you can think of many implications for highlighting to assess student understanding. The eraser tool is next. As you know, that just erases your mistakes. Also, I do want to showcase at this point that back or undo button. That's my best friend sometimes. So you always have that undo button if you accidentally do things, or you can redo things as well. So that's helpful. The next way is they have a text box so students can demonstrate their understanding here through typed text. This passage means blank to me. So they can, if they prefer to type in their thinking as well, they can do that. They have a line tool. So that's great for helping and supporting students to draw shapes. So you'll notice if you're exploring right now, there is a question for drawing a right-sided triangle. And so this will help to support students to draw those lines. You can think about all the different ways that you could use that as well. So it just kind of supports them with their thinking. Also, it could be used though if you also had maybe like matching. So it doesn't have to always be in math. It could be in literacy where they're matching or doing some vocabulary work in any content area. So that line tool is helpful. As a teacher or student, you can add a link. And so right here, you could insert as you can see, a YouTube or Vimeo link. So let's say I'm going to come over here and I have a video over here of a plant life cycle. So I'm going to type in plant life cycle video. And when you paste it in here and say save, so this is what it looks like for a teacher or student. So a teacher could use it to share with students, as well as if a student found something to help explain their thinking, they could also add it to the slide. And what I like about this is that when you push play, as you can see, it brings it up here in your tab. Sorry, that was loud. But it also does filter out those ads and comments and suggested videos. So just another way to embed that all right here within one place. Doesn't take them out of ClassKick, which is nice to kind of keep everything in one place. The next is, I love this tool, the adding an image. They could upload something they have. They can also use their camera. And so I'm going to allow it. And so as you can see, I can right from here, take a picture, and it will place it right there within my work. I could see this being very helpful, especially if some students, maybe they prefer explaining or working out their thinking on paper, and they could instead just capture an image of it and put that right here to show their thinking as well. So you could assess student understanding, or maybe they're building a model of something where they do need that tangible material. They could take a picture of it and still be able to showcase that. So that is the adding image, or you can also, I guess, call it the camera tool. One of my favorites is actually the adding the audio, because as a teacher, I love to use adding audio to read my directions for students, or if I had a passage that I had put in here, I could use this tool to read the passage for students. And so it could be that the teacher's using it to support students so they can be successful and independently showing their thinking, but it can be opposite. The student can also explain their thinking back by using this recording tool. Sometimes it's hard for our students to get their thinking out by writing. And so this could be just another outlet for them. As long as they are, demonstrating and explaining their thinking, you could use this. So how it works is you just click start, and it starts. And I could say, to me, this passage means this, or the main idea is this, and I know this because of this. And when they stop and save, it compiles it. As you can see, it's just a little audio file right here for them to listen to, or for me to listen to see if they understood that. Click start. And as you see, it just plays right there. So I love that tool. I've also seen teachers use it for fluency. So especially with remote learning, so that's hard to sit next to each student to be able to give them feedback on how they're doing as a reader. So you could have a passage and ask them to record their voice reading that passage, and then you could have that to do a running record to give them feedback to assess those students as well. The next tool up here up top, this is teacher-centered now. This is adding a manipulative, because teachers have to add manipulatives. And what that means is you're adding an image for students to drag and drop and move around to kind of create that assessment. So how that works is you click that, and it will give you a kind of tutorials. You can see for their example, they're using the manipulatives here to move that up for the different parts or sounds of words. And so for me, I would select a file. I prefer being on my Chromebook because I have a lot of my things saved in my Google Drive. But let's see, I think I have some base 10 blocks in here. So I have a ones, there we go. Now it looks blurry, but I promise it'll get better. There it goes. And so now I have my ones cube to create, and I can add as many as I want. So if I want to add another, and I can keep adding. So if I want maybe 10 ones, I can just keep doing that. Add another, add another, add another. And now when I say finish, it will throw those manipulatives on this slide for students to use as a template now. And you will notice that also if you are exploring right now, I have a question with base 10 blocks for students to build a number. And so that's an idea way that you could use it. So it just allows them to drag and drop. And I even like sometimes to layer these on top of each other. So it kind of looks like that they're pulling from a pile as well. And so that kind of creates a copy for them to be able to have those to manipulate. And then the next one is adding a multiple choice question. So another way to assess your students. Here, how this works is you have to first add the question through text. And so I could say, what day of the week is it? And then have my options, A, Monday, B, Tuesday, C, Thursday, and so on. There we go. So you have to have the question, but after that, once you say add multiple choice, I can select today is Thursday. I can add points if I want and say save. And as you can see, this comes out to the side now. And so this is what they would see. They see the question, and then they can see and choose which one of these is best fit. And if I had the grading turned on, it would also grade that for me as well, because I've indicated that C is the correct answer. And so those are just a few of your tools there that you could use for assessment. Before I move to feedback, are there any questions on any of these assessment tools?
Lauren, we're actually getting a few questions in the chat. So, yeah. So Kelly's asking, can the students interact with the same slide?
Yes. So what I am creating right now. Oh, wait, do you mean students on the same slide at the same time, or?
Yes. So she's saying if I were to record a
Well-
read aloud, could they post their thinking or respond to a question? But I'm not sure if that's on the same, in the same thing that she's asking with the slide. Kelly, if you want to clarify, you're welcome to unmute.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking like if I posted the read aloud and they had to like answer a question or type a response, like what would be the best way to link that? Like, can they do that at this, like on that same slide, or would they do it on another slide or like somewhere else? What would be the best way to?
I see what you mean. So right now, let me see if I have this on. So when I go under, here we go. I have helpers on. So the way that students can see each other's slides is it's called raising your hand. And I have helpers turned on, as you can see right here in green. And so if, let's say that Rosalind raised her hand, I'm gonna go to the view work page. So right now, as you can see, I can watch this. I can see every single kid's work and all their slides and get on and watch them in real time working. So let's say that Rosalind raised her hand. Rosalind, will you raise your hand real quick? She's going to get back in and she's going to raise her hand on a specific slide. And when you raise your hand, that's what up here, I can see who needs help. But I've turned on the student. So if every student raised their hand technically on that slide, they could all see each other's slides. I don't know if that makes any sense. So that I can see Rosalind asked for help. So you should be able to right now see that Rosalind needs help, and you should be able to help her and be able to look at her slide. That's the only kind of workaround I can think of. So I guess it's not truly meant for every kid to see each other's work at any point, just if they want to support each other. Like I said, I have 4 people raising their hands now. And that's nice for me to know. I can quickly see that Rosalind needs help on slide number 2. It takes me there and I can help her with her thinking. Oh, Sarah's on. Oh, look, Sarah Taylor's on hers helping her. So technically Sarah, you should not be able to see Rosalind's name though. It is anonymous. So Sarah really doesn't know who she's helping. Is that correct, Sarah?
Sorry, I couldn't find it. Yes, I could not see who.
Yeah, it gives different names like a resolute robot or brain
Okay.
bookworm. So it's anonymous.
Okay, so that is creative.
I just
So I guess
determined dog.
determined dog. There we go. So I guess my answer to your question is it's not really meant to be more of a collaborative, all of us working on the slide at the same time to see each other's answers. It is more of assessment feedback, kind of teacher to student or students helping each other, but it's anonymous.
Okay, so if I were to read aloud, record myself reading aloud, and I posted a question for the students to answer, like, is that how you could use this?
Yeah,
And
but
share it with the class?
so you would see every single student's answer, but they would not really be seeing each other's answers.
Yeah, and that's fine. It would be more of an assessment for me to assess comprehension or whatever.
Exactly. That is what it's meant for. And so here under
Okay.
my screen, this is where you would, as a teacher dashboard, can you all still see my screen, right? Just making sure. So you would go to that slide. Like right now, if I know that Rosalind doesn't mind, so I can go to Rosalind's slide, as you can see, and I can, so if this was the passage and the question, I can see exactly what that student drew. And I can see them in real time too. So let's see if I don't know if I see anyone working right this second, but it's really nice that you can see where they are. Let's see. So if I go to, let's see, Rosalind is on, I think right here on this slide. And I can give her, I know this is my next talking point though, is feedback, but there we go. You can see Rosalind's typing this fake text box right now. So you can see that in real time. Any other tools or any other questions about assessment before I kind of move on to feedback?
That's all that we had in the chat.
Okay, so I'm going to roll right into feedback if that's okay. And so for feedback, as you can see here, what I really like about ClassKick is, like I kind of just mentioned, and I'll go show you model a little bit deeper, is you can view each student all across one dashboard, which is nice. You don't have to click on, and toggle between different students. You can see each slide as well, and you can give that feedback in real time as they're working, or if you choose to, they can all complete this assignment at different times, and you can get on a little bit later to give them that customized feedback. So you kind of have a choice. The next component I'll model is what they call the quick feedback and stickers. And so you can kind of custom load what they kind of make it look kind of cutesy with stickers, but it also has a comment. So it's kind of like a comment bank. So if it's something constant that you're always saying, like, please go back to the passage and find an example of that, or can you maybe elaborate on that, you could have those customly built. And so when you click on that, it automatically goes as feedback instead of you having to type that in that many times to students. And then last but not least, the peer helpers, which I kind of showed why they can raise their hand. And so not only are you giving feedback, but then that's student to student, them working together to support one another, but in that anonymous way, especially if it is something that's kind of an assessment tool that, students, their feelings aren't hurt, or they're not embarrassed, or if they're sharing something personal that they would not know who was listening to their thinking. So let me show you those. So here, Rosalind's typing hi. I'm going to go to somebody else too, maybe. So I can get on, let's see. I got on Dr. White's, and as you can see, like her pizza one here. And so I can give her feedback in many ways. These tools are all still available. So as a teacher, I could write out if I want to. I can draw something, or if I want. I know I wouldn't just give a smiley face. But you could write out your thinking. You could maybe, if it was a passage, you could, highlight, or you could draw their attention to somewhere to give them feedback. And Dr. White sees this in real time too. So on her slides, if she was on this slide right now, she would see me drawing on it. I could highlight if I wanted to. So I could highlight their thinking and give them some feedback. Use something a little darker there. There we go. I can go back and erase it though as well. I can type in text if I want. I agree, or can you elaborate on this? And so she would see that in real time as I'm typing for that immediate feedback. You can also, if you needed to draw any shapes or lines, you could do that. I also think this adding link is helpful. So maybe if you have an instructional video, if they had a misconception on something, you could add a link and refer to a video for them to go back and watch, for them to change their thinking. So that link could also be helpful for that, especially if you are, recording lessons, mini lessons. You could repost your mini lesson for them to go back and watch. You could take a picture as well. So maybe let's pretend like this was an order of operations problem maybe. And, as a teacher, maybe I like to work it out in my whiteboard. You could work it out in whiteboard, and then with your camera, maybe take a picture of your whiteboard and then capture that and put that in as feedback for the students as well. Also, maybe if you're a teacher who you do better and it's more intimate, in my opinion, maybe they want to hear your voice. You could use audio to give your students feedback as well. So I could say, great job, Dr. White, with using the pen tool to draw your pizza. I also like pizza. What's your favorite pizza type? And that feedback comes up as for them to that audio recording to listen to. So that's another way you could give them feedback as well. And then last but not least, now we have these stickers. And so I kind of talked about those stickers, kind of make it like a shortcut, or I call it like a question bank. And so you can customize these stickers however you want. You can use the basic ones they already have here for you, as well as edit them if you don't care for how they say, or you can add your own sticker completely yourself. So you can change the image. I find this helpful maybe if in class you specifically use different icons or gestures, or your anchor chart. You can import your own image if you want to kind of draw their attention, like maybe an exclamation mark means maybe elaborate or explain your thinking. You could add that in. And then you put the text, as well as if you want to have it graded, you could have points as well there. So go back in the passage. If I just click that and I just choose where I want it on that. So now the student, that's a quick little way to give feedback. It has the icon and it has my feedback quickly there. So just another efficient way to give feedback to students there, right there within their slide. And last but not least, that last tool that I kind of talked to you all about was the student helper. And so in order to allow that, after you've created your assignment, under assign, is where you can find the different ways to change your settings. And so I have grades off, but the student helpers I did have on because I thought that would be beneficial if a student raises their hand that they could support one another, but that can be turned off as well. And then also, while I'm here, just want to capture, you can hide the assignment if you're not ready for them to see it yet, as well as lock it. So maybe if it is a summative assessment and you don't want them to go back and change their thinking, you could lock that assignment. So what they submit is what sticks and they can't go back in and edit, because they can get back and edit this at any time, which is also helpful if it is maybe a formative assessment. We know where they're at this point. Maybe we've kind of got our groups and we want them to go back and change their thinking, that they could do that as well. So that can be found there in that assign tab. So that is
Lauren.
Huh?
I'm sorry, I jumped in. Jamie had a really good question. Are there any lessons already built on like a community or something where we can pull from lessons?
Good question. There are. Let me remind myself where I found those. I don't think it's in the profile. Oh, I think it's when you go to, here we go. I think it's the plus button. There it is. Browse assignment library is where you can find those. And maybe you'll have better luck than me. I'll be honest. I have not been too impressed with the library myself. I have pretty much, as you can see, worked with teachers and we have kind of created our own based on our needs. But what I do like about the library is that if you do find something that, even remotely kind of looks like something you might want to use, you can upload that and then take out parts as well as add your own. So you don't have to use the whole activity. As well as I love how you can share these. And so if someone maybe, like for example, this kindergarten teacher had this and she wanted maybe to share it with her teammates. When you can share a copy with colleagues. And so that quickly you can either send it by email or get a quick link. And that automatically, when you copy this link and give that to your colleagues, it forces that copy to them so they're not changing your assignment and they can use that as well. So yes about your question about the library. Hopefully they continue to build it, but you can also share among colleagues as well. Any other questions? Or I turn it over to Ms. Roslyn. Also, kind of what I like about it, just one more thing, is that I think it kind of looks like slides. So you literally can build it slide by slide, add as much or little. You can have literally one slide, or I added a ton. I would not probably ever have that many slides as for an assessment for students. That's a lot, but I wanted to showcase every tool. So it can literally just be one question, but you can also build and add in multiple questions as well. But it's very user-friendly, as you can see, to use and build. Takes minutes, in my opinion. You can upload things if you already have something created as a PDF or something that then they could just annotate on top of or highlight as well. So there's just a lot of options, I feel like, to it. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing then and turning. Oh yes, Dr. White mentioned, yeah, we used it for just calendar, even with kindergarten. So every kid could participate instead of just that one student coming up and pointing to the days of the week or talking about the weather. Every kid on their device was able to participate in circle or write out the day of the week or use the number chart for how many days of school we've been in, or go to the weather.com link and write in the temperature. So just another way to get kids involved and all engaged. All right, here you go, Miss Roslyn.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I will, hold on, let me just make sure I'm good to go. So I am going to share my screen with you. First, we will go over Mentimeter, which is a really great, basically just a polling tool. And if you would just let me know when you can see my screen. Okay, great. So it's a polling tool, which I think is what a lot of people think of when they think of Mentimeter, but you can actually create entire lessons within Mentimeter as well. And so you can, I mean, it's actually kind of reminds me of Class Kick, where you basically are creating slides. And you can have content slides with images and videos, but you can also embed assessments throughout. What's really great about this is that students don't need an account. So this is an approved tool through our vetted software sheet, if you've looked at that. So students don't need an account. So you would basically just give them a code and they would type in their name. And so because students don't need an account to access, all of their responses are going to be anonymous. And actually, I don't think they type in their name at all, now that I say that out loud. And so all of those responses are anonymous. So something important to think about is, if this is something that you want to collect a bunch of data on and keep it for a long time, where you know that Johnny was really struggling with whatever concept, this might not be the best tool to use for that. But this could be really great in the classroom, just to get quick formative assessment feedback from students. But you could also use this synchronously and asynchronously if you're a VLA teacher, or if we happen to go back to NTI as well. So Mentimeter could be used for those things. And I've just got some videos here on this first slide on how to create your first Mentimeter, and then how students join a Mentimeter. But I'm going to show you quickly just what this looks like. You're welcome to join. You would go to, or you would direct students to go to menti.com, and then you would type in this code here. It's spaced out just so that you can read it a little bit better, but the spaces don't actually matter when you're typing in the code. So you can see that for this first slide, I have just got a title slide. I have also turned on the feature where students can ask questions on every slide. So if you're joining this, you might see that it says like ask a question, but you don't have to ask a question if you don't want to, or if you don't have a question. So I'll give you just a second to join this, and Lauren and Dr. White are also going to be answering some questions along the way, just so I can kind of show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide, and you can see that menti.com and the codes still show up there. So if you move on from the title slide, students can still join. So I have asked students, what is your biggest challenge with assessment? And so you will see, as I'm getting responses, they will show up on the screen. Math assessments virtually, finding time to also give students personalized and timely feedback. Time, absolutely. And especially if you teach, like if you're a secondary teacher and you're teaching the same content all day long, you might have 110 kids turning in an assignment or an assessment all at the same time. So absolutely. And then actually giving that feedback on those assessments. So these are great responses. And this is sort of like what you would see if students are responding on a Mentimeter as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and skip to the next slide. This one, I said, have a question, ask me. And so this is a Q&A slide. And so we've got a question here, who has used this tool. It was new to me this summer. And so this might be a really good way for you to get some conversation started with kids, or if they have a question and you want to be able to give that feedback verbally in class, you can do that as well. So I quickly wanted to show you what this looks like if a student participates in it. But I'm also going to show you what it looks like to actually create the Mentimeter. I've only got a couple of minutes to talk about that, so I'm probably going to go pretty quickly, but I do have a lot of instructional videos embedded in these, or not embedded, but linked on the slides as well. So when you sign up for Mentimeter, this will be your dashboard. I think you click your presentations first, and then you would get to this screen, and I'm going to click on new presentation, and I'll just, I'm going to call this sample assessment and feedback, and I'm going to create this presentation. And so you can see here, it is automatically going to ask me to choose a slide type. And so you might just want to create an entire presentation, and you can do that if you would like to. Just some things to keep in mind though, in the free version, you are only going to get 2 question slides per presentation. So up here where it says popular question types, you can only have 2 of these per presentation. And then you can only have 5 quizzes per presentation. So these here. But you can have as many content slides as you want. So I'm just going to show you quickly what this will look like. If I wanted to give a question slide, if I hover over this word cloud, I like that I can see a kind of a preview of what that might look like once student responses start coming in. If I hover over open-ended, I can see that preview again. So I'm going to click on open-ended just so you can see some of these options. You would type under your question, whatever the question is. Type your question here. And then you can see that it gives you some layout options. So speech bubbles 1 by 1. So you would see one response at a time and it would kind of scroll through those. Or you can have a flowing grid, which might be really good if you're expecting a lot of responses. So you have those options there as well. And then I can go in and change this question type if I want to do that. And then there's my Q&A slide. So I can click on that. And again, this just allows students to ask questions. And you'll notice that it says, when would you like the audience to ask their questions? And I can say, I only want them to ask questions on a Q&A slide, or I can allow them to ask questions on every slide, which could be really good. Sometimes students, they'll raise their hand in class or something like that, and then you're just trying to get that last thought out before you answer the question, and then you get to them and they've forgotten their question. And so this could be really great for students to be able to comfortably ask questions in a timely way so that they're not just constantly forgetting their questions. So you can change that setting as well. And then, of course, there's not really an embedded way to give feedback in Mentimeter, but you can give that verbal feedback to students or that sort of thing. But keep in mind, it is anonymous, and so you're not necessarily going to know that a certain kid asked a certain question. So just keep that in mind. I've put some resources on here. You can use your phone to kind of control that Mentimeter. It's called Mentimote. And I've given some instructions here. I did a screen recording of my phone so that you could see what that looks like. And then some additional resources here on Mentimote. Or not Mentimote, but Mentimeter. And part of that is Mentimote. Okay. Before I move on to Jamboard, I just want to check and see if I've got any questions on Mentimeter.
No, I asked the question if anyone had used it, and Jamie said that she uses the word cloud for spelling practice.
Ooh.
But no questions. I love the idea of using it that way.
Yeah, that's great. I love that idea. Okay, so we are going to move into Jamboard. And I know Jamie asked a question about kind of Jamboard versus ClassKick earlier. I'm going to start a Jamboard through this Google Meet, which is a fairly new feature in the last week or two. And so I'm sharing my screen with you. I'm going to go to the skinny snowman in the bottom right corner of my Google Meet. And I'm going to go up to Whiteboard, open a jam. And so I'm actually going to start a new one. I don't have one created that I want to use here. So I'm just going to start a new whiteboard. And as you can see, it says some people are going to need access to this file. I can choose to share it with the 10 people that are in this Google Meet, either as view or edit. I'm going to leave it as view just so you can kind of see. But you also have the option so that anyone in Oldham County Schools web with this link can view. So you can choose which one you want to use. Or if you don't want them to have access to it at all and you just want to share your screen, you can check this box down here. But I'm going to give you view access and I'm going to hit send. And if you check the chat now, you should have a link to at least be able to open up this jam and view this Jamboard. And so I'm also sharing my screen, but you have access to look at this as well. You'll notice that it names this Jamboard Digital Takeout, which is the Meet nickname that we used. And then it gives that code behind there. And you can see if you compare here, the code in our Google Meet link is the same little code behind Digital Takeout here in Jamboard. So you can use Jamboard for assessments in several different ways. This is basically just a collaborative whiteboard. And so you've got some of your basic annotation whiteboarding tools here. So I'm going to click on the pen tool. You've got your pen, marker, highlighter, and paintbrush, and you've got a few colors here that you can use. I'm going to select marker, and then I'll do blue. So you can kind of have students draw on here if you want to do that. They can erase, or you can just clear the frame. You've got your pointer tool, sticky notes as well. So you've got different colors of sticky notes here. Important to note though, in sticky notes, you can't write on them. You can only type. And then you would hit save, and it automatically gives you the option to do another one. But if you don't need another one, you can just hit cancel. And so you can move these around, or students can if you're using this for an assessment for them. You can insert images. You can either upload, you can Google search images, and Google Drive or Google Photo images as well. And then you can insert those into your Jamboard. You've got, this is actually pretty new. At least I think it was mid to late August this came out. You can insert shapes into your Jamboard. So maybe you want to, for example, maybe you want kids to do a Venn diagram to compare and contrast concepts. So you can have them do that as well. Oops, there we go. And then I can resize it. And of course, this doesn't look like a nice, pretty Jamboard or Venn diagram because the circles are overlapping. But you can change the fill color to be transparent up here on those so that it looks like a nice Venn diagram. And students could then insert a text box into this Venn diagram here. And then they can change the size. They can change the size of the text and the color of the text and all of that as well. So you've got those options there. Up here at the top of your screen, top middle, you'll see it says 1 out of 1. If I click on that, this allows me to get a broad kind of overview of all of my slides or all of my pages, I guess, on a Jamboard. But I can duplicate a page if I want to. And I can see teachers using this to create a template for students. Lauren and I actually just did this in one of our coaching cycles this week. We created a template on slide 1 and then just duplicated it for as many times as we needed it. And so you can see all of your pages up here. And then if you share this with students, they can each have their own assigned slide if you want to do that. Or you might have them in groups. The benefit of having them in groups, I think, would be that we figured out actually this week that you can only have 20 pages in a Jamboard. And so if you've got, for example, 30 students, not every single one of them is going to have their own page. And so that might be a great time to put them in groups and assess them as a group. And then they can even go into each other's pages and use the sticky note feature to give each other feedback. And so that might not be you giving feedback, but students can give feedback to each other in that way, which can be really, really powerful. I think of that as like kind of like a virtual gallery walk type thing. And then you can use the same tools, the same features for you to actually give feedback to students. So you can use these sticky notes to go in and give feedback to each group or to each student on there. You can even use the annotation tools. You can circle something that you think they did really well. Like I can circle that, and then maybe I want to include a little text box. Nice job here. And you can do that with sticky notes as well. I like the sticky notes because they're colorful and they kind of stand out. They're different colors than the markers and pens and that sort of thing. So I like the sticky notes to be able to give feedback in that way as well. I'm going to come over here to the chat just to see if I have any questions.
There was one early on. Let me scroll back up to it. But somebody can jump in if they want to. Oh, here it is. It had to do with backgrounds. Is there a way to embed a photo as the background so students don't touch it or move it around?
So, no, there's not. You could insert an image, and let's see. I honestly haven't played with it much because I don't know if you can order it. Like, let's see. You can order it, but I would have to then go in. I'm going to put a text box here. And so you might want to just then click order. And since it's already at the back, it's not an option, but I might say bring to front, and you can see my text box disappears. So I would then have to order, send to back, and the text box reappears. But unfortunately, I mean, the kid could still click on the image and, move it around. So it's not like slides where you can embed that image into the background. So it's not as easy to do the background, I think. Could you make the text box cover? I'm sure you could. I could take this text box and then drag it at least that much. You can see I can't like change it right here. Now I'd have to change the font size, maybe as like a caption size if I wanted to, but then it just changes the whole text box. So the background image is not as I don't know, user friendly as it would be on like Google Drawings or Google Slides or even ClassKick, because I know that you can do that on ClassKick as well. They do have some background options there, which of course are very, very limited. But if you're looking at having kids write or do graph paper, that sort of thing, I like the black background for those students who might have some visual impairments that may need a different contrast there. So those are some options there as well. Jamie, you can do a transparent shape.
Yeah, I think she was using that as trying to think of options to kind of lock an image in the background.
Okay, yes. But yeah, so that is your Jamboard. And again, it is integrated with Google Meet, which I really like that. It is limited compared to some other tools, but still a great way for students to collaborate, for you to assess them, give feedback to them, those types of things. So I am going to pass this over to Lauren. Or no, probably Dr. White, because I think we've got our digital dessert here at the end, but we're running low on time. So I'm going to give this over to Dr. White, and you can look through that digital dessert in your own time. Dr. White, do you know you're on mute?
Of course not. I'm talking to myself. So I just went through those slides that Lauren had for the feedback and assessment on the insert learning. But if you'll go to this bit.ly, so it's just bit.ly/AFOCT1, and if Lauren or Rosalind will throw that in the chat for us. What we're asking here is just a very, very quick post-session survey, just asking you for some information so that we can improve on our series as we continue to offer these kinds of opportunities. And it also serves as your attendance here so that if you are one of the people that needs professional learning hours, then we have this in our spreadsheet that we can share with office managers so that you get credit for being here. So it helps us, and it also is your sign in, so to speak, at the end. And then we want to spend the last couple of minutes as you all are completing that, just answering any questions that you all might have.
I have a question. This is Kelly, sorry. There's so many like digital platforms and resources and options. How do you like figure out the best one to use for what you need? Because I'm kind of overwhelmed with all the options, and I know my parents get overwhelmed with all the different platforms and figuring out, I'm using Padlet and Jamboard and Google Slides and this and that. Like, how do you kind of streamline that to some degree? Maybe that's not an easy answer, but.
Well, and Roslyn and Lauren can jump in here, but one of the things this summer when we were working with remote learning, trying to prep people for that, was yes, we have lots of things available, so see what fits your need, but also think about getting really proficient and letting your students be proficient with a tool. So use those things that they're familiar with, you're familiar with, and then step out with another one and let them get used to it. And after they build a certain level of comfort and proficiency with that, they may start to get bored, or it may not be meeting their needs. So then introduce another one. I just don't think it's good practice for us to throw 10 different tools at them all the time. That's overwhelming to you and overwhelming to them and to the parents.
Right, that's what I'm finding.
So find the tools that will do what you need for them to do. And that doesn't mean that, I loved Kahoot when it came out, and I think I overused it because I wanted to constantly do a Kahoot. Well, then it wasn't novel anymore and it wasn't as engaging. So then maybe finding something instead of a Kahoot would have been appropriate at that time. So we're just trying to make you aware of all kinds of different ones that may meet the need that you have. It may be a new tool, and if it meets that need, then introduce it to the students. But just for the sake of, I'm using 20 different tools this week, that's not the point. And others may be able to jump in here, so I'm going to shut up.
I agree with what Dr. White said, but at the same time, also trying to find tools that might do multiple things. And so I'm not trying to just say Class Kick just because I just showcased it, but Class Kick, you can use it for assessment. You can use it for kids to manipulate. So if you can find one that does for multiple purposes, that I feel like also helps, so that you're not exposing them to too many things. But it does sometimes, I feel like, I guess sometimes though, it is depending on your purpose. So for assessment, you might have a go-to tool like she talked about Kahoot, but all of a sudden, when you're wanting, presenting something to kids, you might use slides a lot. So I know that it can be skill-based sometimes or purpose-based, but if you can find one that encompasses many different outcomes, that will the most bang for your buck almost, you know what I mean?
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. We're willing to stay on here if you have questions, but if you will, just make sure that you complete that survey for us to help us. And we look forward to you joining us in 2 weeks on the 29th. We'll be back here, same time, same place, but different tools in our takeout menu.
And Kelly, just ask about where are these resources. We will post this in the chat again real quick, the slides that you can always access here. Oh, Rosalind did it. Thank you, Rosalind. But also, we'll follow up with an email of the recording as well as the slides again. So if you were here, we'll make sure we share that. And just, yeah, save that in your drive. Come back to it when you're ready. You might not be ready for it right now, but maybe in a few months you're thinking, oh, I'd love to use that Mentimeter, to pull students in during a live Google Meet. And then you can access that at any time. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, ladies.
I have another question. Sorry, so many questions.
No, that's why we're here.
The last week session that I missed, is there a way to get the slides for that? Because I would love to see how to use Google Forms and quizzes more effectively. I'm using those currently for my assessments, but I still don't know how to do a Google Form assessment the right way. I just copy it and change from the last week. So if there's a way to see a tutorial on that, that would be awesome.
Sure. I'll make sure that you get that the video and the slide deck. I'll probably just forward the email that I sent to the attendees last time.
Okay, yeah, that'd be fine. I mean, I'm self-sufficient in that regard. I don't know how to navigate Google Forms yet. For some reason, I can't figure it out. But yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.